For everyone coming to me for content about East
fire at the
Palestine and
Norfolk
everyone
Southern
sharing
Rail
videos,
line
I
in East
need
Palestine,
to implore
Ohio,
you to
was a
stop
bigger
sharing
deal
old
than they
information.
said.
The first video that I posted, which is the most viral, has tons of information that is not incorrect, but it's outdated and not really relevant anymore. By all estimations, all the hydrochloric acid is gone.
Hello everybody, I hope you can all hear me. How's it all going? Welcome back here. Who knew I'd be donning this stuff again? Well, kept you waiting, huh? What's up everybody? Hello and welcome aboard here. It has been a bit, but I'm here, I'm alive, I'm safe. I did not go down to Ohio, but being the next door neighbor as a Hoosier, things are not looking too well. Hello, Osman. Hello, Rick Truck. I hope you all can hear me well. Hello, Adam. Hello, Chicago Rail fan. Hello, Rip the Jack. Good to see you all and everybody here in the audience on the ARC stream. Hello, Focus. Hello, the man from Tokyo, Aegis, Gus. Welcome aboard. Let me just go ahead and get this all started. So, how we're going to do this stream tonight, we're just going to look at just one thing. We're going to look at what's going on in Ohio because, as I've said time and time again on this show, and just like a lot of you have said also before, things are going to get worse before it gets better. Now, we have warned multiple times about a management process called precision scheduled railroading. For those of you who don't know what precision scheduled railroading is, we'll also get into that because the media doesn't really want to talk about precision scheduled railroading, right? They want to talk about the 99 Chinese red balloons that keep flying in the winter sky for some reason. Or now they're calling them UFOs. I don't know if they're going to be doing some Project Blue Beam type of stuff here or whatever. But let me get the right jacket on over here because I'm out of the zone. For those of you who were listening, but yeah, it's pretty bad what's been going on over there. This is exactly what we've been telling you what's going to happen, because precision scheduled railroading has cut out a lot of the boundaries that make rail transportation safe. And rail transportation is generally safe when the infrastructure is kept up, when the right boundaries are in place, when the right people are in place where they're supposed to be, and everything is running as it should. However, that hasn't been the case for the last several years. So we're going to go look into that, and we have a whole bunch of articles, videos in here. I'm trying to make this as much of a very how would you put it, as in depth as possible than any other video concerning the Ohio Railroad out there, as much as I can, right? I'm trying to see if I can get as much done in an hour as maybe you've already heard what's going on, or have already gotten some info, but let's go in. So here we are. So we're talking about what happened here on the night of the accident. This was 20 miles before. So you can go ahead and see here.
Tonight, pretty stunning video raising a lot of questions, especially for people in East Palestine.
Alright, hold on. Let me just make sure that you guys can hear that, and I can put on my headset over here. And apologies for a little bit of the... it's been a bit. So happy belated 2023, happy Merry Christmas, everything, all that on there. And I guess a happy Valentine's Day for those of you who were there. So let's get on the right hat over here, the conductor hat. Let's see if this will actually go through. Alright, so you can all see that. There you go. There's the there are the wheels on fire. The brakes are on fire. Well, let's see if I can... There we are. Okay, so there you go. That's what's been going on with that, because as you can see, the brakes are on fire, and they already had a visual, or at least let's put it this way: the way that alerts work for the railroads it's different than what it used to be before, because when there used to be some sort of incident or something going on, the conductor or the engineer would be able to get the alerts for it. Right? Just like if you're driving a car, you know, you're low on gas, ding, pop up. You know, you're running on empty. The same thing would happen if you have to go ahead and put in, you have to go and replace the oil, etc. Any other sort of maintenance stuff, right? You'll get a maintenance code, right? But you don't get this with the railroads anymore. Now it goes to dispatch, and then dispatch figures out whether or not they should make a call to the conductor and the engineer on board the train at the time and make a call. Now, with precision scales railroading, there used to be a heck of a lot more dispatchers. Now you probably get, maybe according to what I've read, maybe one dispatcher for about 1,000 miles of railroad, which that's a lot to go ahead and take care of. Okay, it's a lot of work, it's a lot to do. This is not good. So what happened here in East Palestine is exactly this sort of failure happening, as we've said it, as we told you it was going to happen multiple times, but this is just the beginning of it, right? So this is how we've seen what's going on. There you go. And then what it led to was, of course, as you've seen, this absolute terrible disaster. Okay, so the brakes failed, the train jackknifed off the railroads, and there you had the chemical spill of vinyl chloride, as you guys have been hearing about all over the place. The chemical is something that's used in plastic manufacturing. It's not the chemical. It's not a material that's the product of it. It's what goes into plastic. So if you're familiar with any sort of plastics, it's not good when you get enough microplastics as we already have in the environment. So imagine that now concentrated to, you know, more than times 100 at this rate, right? So that's what's going into the system over there. This is worse than what we're seeing in other sort of disasters thus far, because the similar disaster happened in New Jersey, and what's the same type of scenario. Vinyl chloride was the same fluid, but the issue was that in New Jersey, again, same sort of thing, and nothing happened after that in terms of anybody was held responsible or anything. They just paid off the town to quiet, not say anything. They paid them about $500 to about $2,500 to not sue, and it was about 200,000 pounds of vinyl chloride. This, we're talking about 1 million pounds over here. So we're talking about 5 times as much. So as you can see, this is the absolute disaster that happened over here. Okay, 100 cars derailed in East Palestine near the state border. And the state border, it's by Pennsylvania. So for those of us who are here in the Ohio River Valley, we're pretty upset. And again, me being in Indianapolis, Indiana doesn't really have the greatest of rivers as well. It's pretty toxic over here as it is, which is why I filter all my water over here. And that's mostly thanks to big agriculture, because now we have a whole bunch of pesticides, herbicides, every sort of side you can think of inside the water supply because of the massive amount of farming of corn and soybeans. 2 cash crops that honestly at this point, it's got to stop at some point, because the corn lobby is just ridiculous. But the thing is that because these crops are heavily nitrogen, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but it all goes into it. Okay, because the water is so polluted over here, now we're going to add this on top of it. It's already a bad disaster already as it is. The country is falling apart. You're just happening to see it in slow motion. The crash, although you have seen, was basically live. So they went ahead and figured out, well, the Ohio Emergency Management Agency was the one that executed the plan, telling the National Guard to go ahead, rig up the thermite to the vinyl chloride, because if they let it leak into the ground, it'd be a lot worse, right? That whole entire place would be uninhabitable. So they thought the best way to do it was just blow it up. And blow it up they did. So they sent a whole bunch of large plumes of smoke containing vinyl chloride, phosgene, hydrogen chloride, and other gases into the air as the flames from the controlled burn raged on for days. Phosgene in particular is a highly toxic gas that can cause vomiting, respiratory trouble. The toxicity of phosgene gas is so potent it was previously used as a chemical weapon during the First World War. So they basically went ahead and, worse than nuking the town, they just, said, hey, chemical warfare on the town, and here in the United States, why not? So you're worried about the balloons, honestly, the balloons that go over and taking pictures while you have Chinese apps on your phone anyway, while our own government is basically conducting chemical warfare on the towns. What else are you going to do from there, right? So, here, this is from Sil Caggiano, hazardous material specialist. Oh yeah, by the way, Norfolk Southern is Norfolking the town by just paying the whole town $25,000. Not per resident. This is for the whole village of East Palestine, 25,000 grand. I'm sorry, 25,000 bucks. That's it. That's what they're getting right now.
We now know 3 more chemicals that were on board the Norfolk Southern train that derailed here in East Palestine just over a week ago. And we're being told that some of those chemicals are dangerous.
We basically nuked a town with chemicals so we could get a railroad open.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency sent a letter to Norfolk Southern stating that ethylene glycol monobutyl ether, ethylexyl acrylate, and isobutylene were also in the rail cars that were derailed, breached, or on...
Alright, and here's another thing. I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly what all these chemicals do, because you get a lot of people that go over here and all of a sudden they're, chemists by trade because they saw a couple of YouTube videos. I did chemistry in high school. I did chemistry in college. Alright? No, the redox reactions, all that sort of stuff. Whatever. No big deal, right? The problem is we're looking at the main source of what's going on, right? It's bad. This is all simple, okay? Drug level, midwit level of chemicals. These chemicals bad. That's all you have to know. These chemicals very bad, okay? So enough of the going on or what can cause this again. No, it's bad, okay? And this is absolutely on the fault of Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern and Class 1 railroads, and we'll get into what's going on with this, right? But again, they said that the and here you go, you can see the explosion that they set off. There you go. Pretty freaky. This is happening, in our own country. They went ahead and ordered 2,000 residents of East Palestine out of their own. Despite the public safety risk in proximity to the crash site, over 500 people within the parameters of the evacuation area refused to leave their homes. That's going to happen. Feel sorry for the people there because, it sucks, right? When this happens over here because you have a company that just doesn't care about safety regulations. They're going to do whatever they can to make a profit anymore. This is the problems that we've been talking about the Class 1 railroads for a pretty long time. So now you're just seeing it happen in action right here. But they're allowing residents to come back into their home. They're still saying that they're smelling chlorine gas in their homes. Pets are dead. All right, we'll talk about the dead animals pretty soon over here. So yeah, you can see here they're pulling out of the river dead fish. Again, to put this in perspective, maybe the biggest, the most talked about accident in the United States in terms of chemical, nuclear, CBRN type of stuff is usually 3 Mile Island, right? That's usually the one that's talked about more. So you can see about the health effects over here. Did it cause some stress? Did it cause some chemical? I'm sorry. Did it cause some negative health effects? Yes, to a degree it needed more of a long-term study to go ahead and find, but then again, this is according to these studies, right? So they could be messing around with the statistics over here. They could be messing with the control and the other values that are coming into these studies. So who knows? Okay, so an increase of rate for cancers other than leukemia from 0.83 to 1.17, meaning a rise from below the national average to above it. So there was above average now, or slightly above average leukemia, standard mortality rate increase, and this is again 20 years into that. In terms of pets dying, let me see if I have that over here. I know I did somewhere. Let's see. I have so many tabs open over here, it's insane. Here we go. All right. So, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, this is back in 1980. This counts 3 Mile Island accident caused animal deformities, right? So, they said that health problems that were reported was a glowing fish. They went ahead and said that it was caused by marine bacteria. A poodle was born without one eye socket. So we're talking about back in the 1980s, right? 3 Mile Island, 1970. Was it 70? 79. Yeah, 79. Yeah. Okay, so again, the domino effects in the 1979 3 Mile Island nuclear accident are widely agreed to be very low by scientists in the relevant fields. Again, the science, right? The scientists that we have been trusting, they really haven't been doing such a great job in the last couple years. But I'm not going to go into that. So we're just putting this in perspective of how bad East Palestine is, right? A commercial collection of 500 pet birds, such as parakeets, canaries, and cockatiels, died in a 2-hour span on May 2nd, 1979. The report said no signs of radiation sickness or disease were found in the birds. That's kind of BS. Cause of death was believed to be overheating or toxic fumes. Deformities were noted in ducks and kittens. The report determined to be developmental malformities. Okay, again, a lot of this they're just passing off as, oh, it's perfectly normal that this has happened. It's just malformities, marine bacteria, overheating and toxic fumes, right? Reports of stunted vegetation growth centered on dead branches or leaves on many trees, or specifically reduced fruit production on 2 pear trees, one of which was dying, right? So a lot of this stuff was reported over several months to about a year, okay? This is what we're seeing already just within a week of what's going on over here, okay? A whole bunch of fish just floating down the river, dead. Fish, frogs, any sort of marine life within that area, dead. We're seeing cats, dogs, chickens, any sort of small animals dead. And again, the smaller the animal, the bigger amount of concentration the animal is going to get of any sort of toxic chemical in the environment. That's just the way it concentrates in there. Here we are, creeks 5 miles away from the train derailment. And this is just in the first week. We're not talking about a month. We're not talking about years of studies. We're talking about in just about the first week.
At the area well and in this creek that you're looking at, they're deciding to not take any chances.
There was hundreds.
Russell Murphy is referring to the fish now belly up in Leslie Run. He and his wife noticed them last night, barely 48 hours after the fiery derailment 5 miles away.
This is huge, huge environmental effects.
That's now one of many concerns the EPA now faces.
The impact of the fish, yes, there was a impact of those. However, the levels as we have seen it are protective to groundwater. We are aware there are some wells along that.
All right, so again, the same sort of BSing from all the government agencies, right? Oh, it's just marine bacteria. Oh, it's just higher levels of temperatures. Oh, it's just nutritional deficiencies and infectious diseases. Again, it's all a bunch of BS from these same governments, the same government organizations.
In Negley, Ohio. I think it's important
Here we go.
for people to see the dead fish.
And again, I'll put all these links will be below because I don't know how many tabs through this, but we're just focusing on what's going on in Ohio. I know some of you guys want me to talk about Southwest or Brightline or all that sort of stuff. Those deserve their own videos, their own live streams. We're talking about this right now because this is important and this is something that we can have an impact on because it directly impacts not just the American railroad industry, but it impacts us all as a country to what's going on.
I'm gonna walk under the bridge here above.
There you go. See, a whole bunch of small fish, bullheads, minnows, all gone there.
Fish. There's hundreds of them up here.
Or smaller catfish. If Darius is on, Darius, my brother would know what these fish are since he's a marine biology major.
Another fish. Another fish.
There you go. Look at this. It's just insane what's going on.
Everywhere. Safely walk the water without
And again, this is just in the immediate area. We've seen the toxic smoke go out. They're saying about 200 miles of diameter outside of East Palestine, right? So for those of us Hoosiers, we're kind of safe. You know, we're already deformed as it is from the water over here and the corn syrup and whatever. But at this point, I think you may be going back to my home of Florida may be a good choice to do within the next several. It doesn't matter because then there'll be something else that happens, right? It's always something else. So it does. Again, it's coming down to the thing. It doesn't matter where you live. Oh, we're going to go ahead and live off in the boonies or live off somewhere and they won't bother us. You know, the government's going to screw up somewhere, or the large oligarchical companies are going to screw up somewhere, right? So you're not really safe. You can prepare yourself, but you're not exactly safe anywhere. And it's just showing here a place called East Palestine, Ohio.
Now, I came out on the other side of this bridge. I just walked you through underneath it. Those are your barriers, sand barrier they have. Here's more.
All right, there you go. So there's more over there. Let's see some other.
These aren't.
Okay, so this video I'm gonna have to go through just a little bit without the audio. If you guys have seen this video already, it contains some words too spicy for YouTube, right? I honestly, it's silly, but let's just go through it. So you can see these are the clouds. It's not any storm clouds or anything like that. Those are the clouds from the burning off of the chemicals that they detonated over in East Palestine. So this is about 15 miles away from the derailment. I'm sorry, no. Okay, so 15 miles from the derailment. Okay, yeah. Schwarzwalder stated that she received multiple reports of dead chickens, fish, and other animals from friends and acquaintances. One affected resident told Schwarzwalder that they let their 2-year-old dog out to use the bathroom only for it to never return. When they embarked upon a search for the missing pet, they found it dead in the yard. Again, this is what's happening to the animals over there. So if this is happening to animals, imagine what's going to happen to the human beings within the next several weeks, months, years. Okay, we already have enough chemical and medical experiments already happening on the U.S. population as it is. But let's go ahead and have another one, right? But yeah, this is it. These are not storm clouds over here. These are the clouds affecting this whole entire area. Okay? And here's more of a compilation video.
Massive train derailed Friday. 20 of them carrying hazardous materials as flames lit up the sky in northeastern Ohio. The evacuation order is in place for anyone within a mile radius of the crash site.
These aren't storm.
Okay, again, yep, this is the same thing that we saw over here. There we go. Again, there's another picture of it right there. All right. Oh, and then we'll talk about the reporter also too. Again, you can see this from the sky as well. Seeable probably on satellite as well. Okay. Anyone who remains in the yellow impacted area, if there's a map of it here again, so you can see where East Palestine is. Let's just go ahead and play it.
Officials are claiming that the air and water are safe. Residents say they can still smell chlorine.
There you go. Look at this.
Their eyes watering when they go
dead frog, dead fish.
One woman says the noxious air killed chickens.
Out of nowhere, he just started coughing really hard and just shut down and went very fast.
Foxes. Well, any sort of animal, and it's probably going to go to eggs before the day, burn Tuesday, eggs after the burn from the Inland Valley. So yeah, if you, so for those of you who think, oh, I'm gonna grow my own eggs in the middle of nowhere, be fine, have our own chickens. Yeah, well, how's that working out now? Again, you can prepare as much as you can, but look at what happens. And I've been saying to get chickens for quite a while. But yeah, look, this is what's going on. So again, egg production down from the chickens if they're not dead yet. Crows flying around because they're sensing all the dead animals. So, and then the crows will probably get affected from the chemicals too because it works itself up the food chain. Here you go. As you can see here, rail companies block safety rules before Ohio derailment, and we'll talk about that as well. Because we have articles from all over the place. I know some of you guys don't like Zero Hedge because it's right wing or whatever. Well, we're gonna have a lot of left wing things here as well. So whatever, we look at both sides, and again, there's sort of an overlap between the very far left and the very far right when it comes down to the responsibilities of corporations and the governments. Both don't like corporations. For reasons, and both aren't too keen on the current government. Okay, so there's definitely an overlap between both those sides. It's sort of, you know how we talk about horseshoe theory in a sense of, you can sort of claim that sort of sense. But look at this here, more pictures of it. Look at that, and it's opening up Twitter. There you go. Look at that. It looks like something out of a. Looks like something out of a disaster movie, don't you think? We'll talk about that as well. There we are. So yeah, that's about it from this article over here. It's pretty bad what's going on. So you guys have seen what's going on over here. Again, Ohio Emergency Management. They're supposed to be having. There was supposed to be a talk or something that's going to be today. I'm trying to see where that was, or it's probably happening right now, but we'll find out. And let's see what else here. Here we are. Again, streams of fish, Koopa chickens, a skulk of foxes are among the animals reported sickened and dying after a catastrophic train derailment led to a chemical burn in Ohio. Okay. So and again, I know it's a little bit too much in terms of the dead animals, but this is again, if this is happening to the animals, imagining what's doing to the human beings. All right, so we've talked about that. Now, let's roll it back a couple years, and we've talked about this before. When it comes to precision scheduled railroading, this is an article from Vice about, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, and I've brought this article up, about from March 22nd, 2021. I brought this article up multiple times in multiple streams. And what we're talking about it, again, Here we go. It's going to end up like Boeing, how freight rail is courting catastrophe. Workers are sounding alarm that drastic cuts in employees and maintenance in order to increase profits are tempting fate, right? So again, this is not the first time we've had some sort of major accidents. This has happened multiple times. Okay, here we are, just off Cleveland Street in Hinman, Pennsylvania. 33 cars and a 178 freight car belonging to CSX Corporation derailed. The train crashed into a house, damaged 2 others. The entire town had to be evacuated. Miraculously, no one was killed. Again, it could have been much worse. One of the of the 178 cars on the train, 70 contained hazardous material, including 15 of the rail cars, including to National Transportation Safety Board investigation. Luckily, just 3 of them, which contained molten asphalt, molten sulfur, and propane, either leaked or lit on fire. The town was evacuated because of molten asphalt. If released, can create vapors that, according to the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, an explosive mixture with air. Some of the other derailed cars contain liquefied petroleum gas, and one car that did not derail contains sodium chlorate, which is potentially poisonous to inhale. Now, if for those of you who are familiar, liquefied petroleum gas was what happened during the Lac Mégantic rail disaster in Quebec back in 2013. Very similar type of thing. It was because of a mechanism that failed on the train. The train started to roll down a 1.2% grade, gained up speed, derailed, caused a massive explosion in the town. And the town since then, according to, let me see, I have here the chat from one of you guys in the Discord. Let me go ahead and bring it up. Okay. Here we are. Alright. So this is thanks to J without A here in the Discord. So for those of you who are still listening on YouTube, go ahead and check out the link to the Discord channel. We're going to start bringing that up. I know I keep saying that, but I've been dealing with a lot of stuff going on in life, so now I'm back. I'm trying to get things going over here. So I'm kind of sort of paraphrasing this for what J without A said. Okay, so Lac Mégantic involves crude oil, involved a lack of maintenance. Again, this is what we saw, which led to fire crews and untrained MMA employees to shut down the lead unit, allowing brake pressure to fall beneath limits to hold the train. Okay, so again, this train had a history of mechanical issues, the engine failure, maintenance, so they just put a temporary part on it instead of actually fixing the part that needed to be fixed, and, well, disaster struck at some point. Okay, so the air pressure failed to hold the limit of the loaded crude train on the grade, and then the brakes failed, and the train began to go through. Again, and then it caused a massive damage, engulfing the area half mile to about 0.75 mile radius was the size of the fireball. And then Lac Mégantic has been rebuilding since the event 10 years ago by this point in time. So the town still has not recovered. It's been... And let's see if we can find over here. Was a tourist destination and producer of forestry products and furniture, masonite doors, particle board, agriculture before July 6, 2013. Devastated downtown and killed 47 people. Okay, so that was one of the worst disasters here in North America. And again, you can see the demographic change in the town. It's gone down basically, right? It lost about 5% of its population in the last couple of years. Maybe gained a little bit, but that's about it. The town is basically not as habitable as it used to be before. Okay, so these are the same type of accidents that are happening over and over and over again. Okay. That while these derailments are rare, they're starting to increase. Okay, so back in 2019, 341 derailments on mainline track, meaning parts of the rail system not in yards or in other work areas. Of those 341 derailments, 24 were freight trains carrying 159 cars of hazardous material. Okay, so freight trains derailed on February 15th. This is back over in 2021. Illinois, February 23rd in Pennsylvania, March 3rd in California, March 7th in Alabama, March 11th both Wisconsin and Minnesota. Okay, so this is something that's been happening more and more frequently. Again, this article was back from 2021, but we've had at least 2 more rail accidents that have happened currently. And if I have the video, here we go. We've had another one that happened in South Carolina.
Learn more about a train derailment in Spartanburg County. Details are limited right now, but first responders tell us some of the train cars came off the tracks. This is near Highway 221 in the Enery area. We know that CSX officials are on scene and will update you as we know more.
All right, and CSX, that's a well-known player that we know that has plenty of accidents. Okay, and then here's another one over in Houston. And again, these trains were also carrying hazardous material, now prompting Union Pacific to monitor air quality at the site. So we have Norfolk Southern, of course, right now. We have CSX, we have Union Pacific, all having the same sort of issues over here. Okay, and again, you can see what's going on here. This is another one from BNSF back on March 3rd of 2021. Another hazmat leak. Okay, so again, according to interviews with current and former rail workers, union officials, and independent experts, the Hinman derailment and others like it are all too predictable result of nearly all the freight rail companies adopting a business approach called precision scheduled railroading. We've talked about this before, PSR. Proponents of PSR say it's about leveraging modern technology to improve efficiency. That's not at all true. But those who work in the railroads every day say it's little more than a euphemism for draconian cost-cutting in order to achieve an arbitrary metric that pleases shareholders. That metric, called an operating ratio, must get below 60%, which means only 60% of every dollar earned goes to actually running the railroads. The rest can go towards executive pay and shareholder dividends. All but one of the 7 so-called Class 1 railroad companies, which account for 94% of the freight rail industry's revenue, have explicitly adopted some form of PSR. How freight railroads are being run, and for those who benefit, is not just a railroad industry issue. It is a problem that has ramifications across the American economy. Freight rail moves around, again, it moves a lot of the goods that we have over here. We're very much dependent on the railroads in order to get the food that we eat, the equipment that we use, the materials that we use to build, etc., right? No railroads, no modern lifestyle. I don't know. Depending on some people, maybe that's not so bad after all, right? But again, for the economy that we have, for what we are running, for the country that we are, to keep seeing our communities and our infrastructure continue to fall apart within our generation. Again, at this point, it's just the same episode that we're seeing of just a bad Saturday morning cartoon that we're seeing here. Okay, so what's going on with PSR? What does that mean? Okay, among the changes, workers now have to inspect multiple more rail cars in a fraction of time, barely giving them enough time to walk the entire train. So instead of spending 3 minutes to inspect the train, they're now spending half that time, at most maybe 90 seconds. So they're not getting enough time to go ahead and inspect the train. Trains are longer than they used to be and assembled haphazardly, with little thought to where the heavy and empty cars should go to avoid derailments, because it would keep the train in the yard longer. So now we're seeing 2-mile long trains. Instead of it used to be less than a mile trains, where we saw smaller trains before, now we're seeing overloaded trains that are about 2 miles long, with a whole lot of materials, with weight balance and distribution all over the place. Shops and yards used to perform inspections along routes that have been closed, meaning there are fewer inspection points. For example, some of the inspection points including the braking systems, which we're seeing fail all over the place. Some of them including the old railroad infrastructure, the physical railroads themselves, that are also failing and falling apart in some places. And again, it's not just the freight railroads. You're also seeing this with, for example, Amtrak. The Northeast Corridor has a lot of infrastructure there that's over 120 years old. So we're working with a country that, is running on the infrastructure that was built over 100 years ago. Maintenance is deferred as long as possible. So we've seen reports, and we have been seeing trains that have been running until literally the wheels fall off, like we've seen over here with the wheels going on fire. Let's see if we can go ahead and show it again. There you are. There are the wheels going here on fire. Okay. There we go. Just to show it one more time. There we are. So this is the type of stuff that keeps happening because, again, it's predictable because we keep seeing the fruits, or more the fungus again. The fungus, because it's parasitic off the already dying industry and infrastructure of the United States, right? And the fungus, the fruits of that fungus, is basically more money towards these Wall Street types. And we're going to start following the money over here in a second. Okay, so again, and the rules, and this is both Republicans and Democrats, so I don't want to hear that one party is better than the other, because it's the same thing, right? It's two sides of the same coin over here. Okay, the Obama administration had a chance to go ahead and put in regulations. They didn't do it. The Trump administration had a chance to do it. They didn't do it. The Biden administration had the same thing. Didn't do it. Okay, Pete Buttigieg hasn't even mentioned it. Okay, Pete Buttigieg is talking more about here we are, having diversity in construction companies, because there's too many white people in construction companies. Okay, and this is from the Daily Mail. So if the Daily Mail is now talking about this, this was something that was in right wing circles to talk about race and whatever. No, this is Pete Buttigieg, our Secretary of Transportation, which again, he failed to go ahead and is he responsible for it? No, this is just a symptom of a dying nation. But did he have a chance to go ahead and put some sort of responsibility on any of these companies? Absolutely. Did he have a chance to go ahead and do the same thing when it came to Southwest Airlines back in December and January? He did. He did have a chance. Did he do anything? No. He hasn't really fixed anything here. So anybody thinking that Pete Buttigieg is all of a sudden going to step up and do anything is wrong. And the same thing with Elaine Chao from the Trump administration. She thought it was more pertinent to go ahead and start focusing on things like the Hyperloop and a whole bunch of other BS like that. So again, it's the same with every sort of party. You're not going to see anything from the federal government, any sort of actual real action, because we've seen this time and time before. Okay, it's happened in New Jersey with the same sort of chemicals. Okay, a fifth of the amount of it, but again, nothing there. Okay, we saw it happen with so many other accidents, like what happened over in the Gulf with BP, the BP oil spill. Nothing there. The same thing with Chevron when they spilled a whole bunch of into the Amazon. Okay, so this is the same type of stuff that we see over and over again. Here, one 40-year-old rail veteran told Motherboard he has never seen anything like it. They're just cutting everywhere on both ends of everything. Motherboard agreed not to name several railroad workers, quoting this article, because of course they fear being fired or speaking out against these sensitive issues. And then what happens when you speak out about these issues, when you ask about them? Let's go ahead and bring, let's see. There we are. I'm trying to find the TikTok video. Here we are, from this guy.
Workers warned us about
here we
a
are.
disaster like this. I heard firsthand months ago about the corporate practice of precision scheduled railroading.
Precision scheduled railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance.
Right, and this is stuff we've talked about, right? So here's Clyde Whitaker, and he's been becoming more of a name here, part of the Ohio State Legislative Director for Sheet Metal Air Rail Transportation Union. Okay.
Oh, you got it all right. I mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national.
And this is what I'm sorry to pause again, but we talked about this back in December. The last live stream that I had was talking about the railroad strike. And again, we talked about this precision scheduled railroading for a long time, about the amount of disasters that it's going to incur in terms of the damage to the infrastructure, the grinding down practically of the workers within all these Class 1 railroads and within all the rest of the railroads that are running with this sort of management system, okay? Because they're working longer hours. They struck to go ahead and just have, if we could have more sick days, okay? And what does Joe Biden do? Basically threaten to fire them all, more or less, if they don't stop striking, okay? Because he needed to make sure that they had to win that, they had to win the midterm, and then they struck again, or threatened to strike again during the Christmas season.
TV is one of a few things. It's lack of maintenance on the track, where they've cut the track gates too short, and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmen's, which is the union that works on the rail cars. So we had one derailment here in Northeast Ohio where a wheel flange was very thin. It picked a switch.
And again in Ohio.
And derailed the entire train. Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried to strike over this stuff, but were stopped by Congress. A few weeks later, and here we are. Several Norfolk Southern cars of toxic, highly volatile chemicals exploded fantastically in the tiny town of East Palestine, Ohio, 20 miles from where I grew up. So I met Clyde in East Palestine to ask him about it.
It looks like a faulty bearing caused a catastrophic derailment. These railroads are turning profits hand over fist. They've cut their workforce to bare bones, and now they're paying the price for it because the wheels are falling off the train, basically. Carmen were inspecting cars about 3 minutes per car. That's always been the industry standard. Now it's 90 seconds per car.
Is that because of PSR?
Yes, it's a rush job right now, and these guys are under pressure. I mean, they're working men and women, and if they don't hurry up and get this car done, they're going to be fired.
Great points. So I went to a press conference with Norfolk Southern and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to ask them about this.
And look at this. This guy looks like the dude from Up, or like a cross between Mr. Magoo and the turtle. The turtle guy in the Masters of Disguise. If anybody had was unfortunately cursed to go ahead and see that movie with friends, but
scheduled railroad to do with the axle failure that caused the derailment.
Do you think this guy is going to stand up for for his citizens? Do you think a guy physiognomically is a real thing, folks? Do you think this guy is really going to stand up and fight for the little guy? You really think that's going to happen?
I have no idea if it's a mechanical issue. Precision scheduled railroading is a management process.
Gives a non-answer, does not elaborate, walks away. There you go. That's basically the answer that you got. He just mumbled on and walked away. This is the answer that they're giving. So they don't want to talk about precision scheduled railroading because they know if they do, it's going to cause a big spark and at least a call for a change in this sort of management process, because they can put in whatever safety regulations that they're going to do, right? It doesn't stop the main issue of this, which is precision scheduled railroading. It needs to be stopped, okay? Because it's where everything, the safety regulations and everything else is stemming from. This is the main culprit of it, right? Precision scheduled railroading, or if they try to call it a different name or anything like that, if it tries to come back and rear its ugly head in some sort of other manner or fashion, it's still the same thing, okay? At least when we're talking about railroads in general, right? Just the freight railroads, we're talking about precision scheduled railroading. You can see this in every other sort of form of infrastructure, which is basically, business as usual, okay? Running everything, letting it fail, letting it fall apart, wasting money everywhere that we can, and just watching everything fall apart, okay? Because this is not something new within America as a whole. We've been seeing this happening everywhere within the United States for years. Again, it's not just what happened in East Palestine, but this is what's been going on everywhere around the country. Okay, let me just zoom this out. I know this collage is a little hard to read because of the resolution that I found it at, but it illustrates in just a one-way perfectly of everything that's going on. Not perfectly, because if it was perfect, it'd be a heck of a lot higher resolution, right? But it shows very well what's going on. All right. Again, what happened in East Palestine just on February 8th? Planes almost colliding in Austin. FAA investigates after 2 planes nearly collide on JFK runway. The California High-Speed Railway, spending millions of dollars on. Why do I keep forgetting the word on it? On not investors. It's always that same word that I keep messing up on every single stream. Guys, help me out over here if you can. Oh man. But yeah, basically paying for Darn, now I'm looking dumb over here. Not investors, not investigators. Consultants. There we go. Thank you. Why do I keep forgetting the word consultants? I'm gonna write it down somewhere so I don't forget it anymore. But yeah, basically California spending $66 million or something like that, $66.6 million or some creepy number like that on consultants. I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget it anymore. Okay, which is funny because I used to work with consultants all the time, and now I keep forgetting the every time that it has to come with California, it's some sort of cruel joke. But there you go. I wrote it down. Consultants. I will never. All I have to do is just open the drawer and just look there. Oh man, they're gonna have to start feeding me ice cream soon, and they're gonna start leading me off stage. I'm gonna have the Easter Bunny to go ahead and have a sign that says consultants for me. Here we go. Also in California, decades of mismanagement lead to choked forests. Now it's time to clear them out, fire experts say. It took 27 years and $300 million for the BRT in San Francisco. BART having to shut down their bathrooms for nearly 20 years. And of course, the Q Avenue line subway expansion, $3 billion for about 2 miles, so $500 million per mile for one of the crappiest subways on the planet. So this is what's been going on within the United States for far too long. Okay, we're just seeing it, another episode of it, right? It's the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, so we've talked about precision scheduled railroading, and here, funny enough, in statements to another board, neither Norfolk Southern nor CSX directly addressed any of these points. Instead, they issued broad defenses of their safety practices, pointing to aggregate safety metrics reported to regulators. Norfolk Southern is firmly committed at all levels to operating safely, protecting our employees and the communities that we serve. Oh man, you're going to have to eat those words up, said Norfolk Southern spokesman Jeff DeGraff. And again, a spokesman is just a spokesman, right? This is not the guy making decisions. He's just regurgitating the same thing over and over again. Our comprehensive approach mirrors that of the freight railroad industry, including significant private investment, right? So just basically the same boilerplate response that he gives to anybody else. He just, opens up a letterhead, sends that over, and there you go. Let's see, which has led to dramatic safety improvements over the past 2 decades with respect to train accidents and employee injuries. Well, you can't say that anymore. Okay, here we go. Same thing with CSX. Cindy Schild, director of media relations at CSX, said in a statement to Motherboard, safety is a core value at CSX. Okay, so again, BS upon BS upon BS. Okay, and again, this also mentions like Magnetique as well in Quebec. So again, this is all the same thing we've been seeing. Safety fourth. Norfolk Southern used to be one of the safest railroads in the country. It won an industry award for safest Class 1 railroad 20 years in a row until their award was discontinued in 2012. Gee, I wonder why they discontinued the award in 2012. Was that about the time that they started position scheduled railroading at about 2010, 2012? I wonder why they didn't want to give an award anymore for safety. It's almost as if they stopped to care. They stopped caring about safety. Management started. Here we go. Again, another thing. Management started mandating workers spend no more than 2 minutes per car. Then 1.8. Then 1.5. Now it's 1.4. Barely giving workers any time to stop and look at the car they're supposedly expecting, which can be up to 100 feet in length. Thanks to staff cuts, rail yards closures, and operation consolidation, workers that used to inspect perhaps 300 cars a day are now inspecting 3 or 4 times as much. So imagine being told to, and it's no wonder why they're striking, imagine being told to do 4 times the amount of work for basically the same amount of pay that you've been getting, and no sick days, or basically few sick days. This is why they're striking. And honestly, at this point, they have a good chance to go ahead and strike now while the iron is hot. Pun very much intended. But this is again, we're going to be seeing this for the next several years. Right? This is not going to stop tomorrow. This is not going to stop in a year. It's not going to stop it's as long as it's taken for this to take root in the whole of this country, it's probably going to take longer to remove the cancer of this destructive way, this parasitism on our industry and on our workers for too long. It's going to take a long way. All right. So this article sort of goes on and on, but we're going to go into some of the bigger points in this. Again, we talked about back in 2020 when the airlines who wanted to go ahead and extract $50 billion of taxpayer money. Okay, not even a villain. Dr. Evil couldn't hold a country ransom. Not even a Metal Gear Solid villain could hold the country ransom for $50 billion during the COVID emergency to go ahead and threaten to say we're going to lay off employees if we don't get $50 billion, right? So let me see. I do have the article somewhere, I think. Here we are. Yep, there we are. From the Washington Post. I had to go ahead and use our friend Archive today because the Washington Post kept asking for money. I don't care. I'm not going to pay these. I'm not going to pay these big toilet paper shills from, they're all owned by the same people, so why am I going to pay them? Okay, do your job right. Okay, so U.S. Airlines want a $50 billion bailout. They spent $45 billion buying back their stock, right? So we see this happening again, right? The buying back of stock. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, a company that's public, right, on the stock exchange has prices set for their stock, right? And if they're doing well, the shareholders can buy back some of those stock, basically paying themselves back, right? So let's say they bought the stock at $60, or let's put it at $50. The stock goes up at $100. They can buy back some of the stock, and depending on how many shares, let's say they have 1,000 shares, that $100 stock. So let me see, just doing the math. So they're getting 500,000 back or so, something like that, right? I'm just spitballing over here. Okay. So again, we don't know which companies are going to get how much in federal bailout money. Again, this is the same thing that happens, back in 2008, the same thing with the bank bailouts. Okay, none of those people are in jail. Are Goldman Sachs in jail? Or any of those people in jail? No. This is the same thing time and time again. Instead of spending the money back on improving airlines, on improving any of the equipment, on improving the service, on improving the timing, on improving because it's obvious that they need to update their systems. Like we saw what happened to Southwest Airlines, that it was some sort of failure within their within the reservation system or something like that caused the shutdown of Southwest Airlines. So it's obvious they need to go ahead and fix those systems, right? But instead of that, they're buying back the stock and giving it to the shareholders rather than putting that money back. It's the same thing when we talk about the operating revenue of the railroads, that they're taking the money instead of that high operating ratio, the low operating ratio that they're trying to, the operating ratio target that they're trying to set. Instead of having that money and profit going back to improve the railroads, they're sending it right back to the shareholders. Okay, so we've seen this happen in the airline industry. It's happening even worse within the railroad industry. And again, this is saying $10 billion in stock buybacks, right? The only number where I see $10 billion in stock buyback was Norfolk Southern just itself within the last year. Okay, so let me see if I can just search. Maybe it was in here. Okay, other giants. For example, CSX funneled nearly $3 billion in buybacks and dividends from investors from January through June. So that's just in 6 months. All right, $3 billion. Okay, from one company in 6 months. Norfolk Southern Chief Financial Officer Mark George said in the July call that shareholder distributions are up, and you'll observe here the 19% higher dividend payments through 6 months on top of continued strong share repurchase activity. Okay, so this is the same thing that we're seeing time and time again. And after admitting the Union Pacific workforce hasn't seen a raise in 2.5 or 3 years, Fritz praised the Presidential Emergency Board, a panel of 3 arbiters appointed by President Joe Biden earlier this summer in a bid to resolve heated contract negotiations between rail carriers and unions, and expressed hope that it will propose a reasonable approach to wages. Okay, so they're not even looking to give raises. They'll wait years to give raises, but they'll make sure within the next 6 months they'll get themselves, they'll pay themselves first, right? Oh, it's always that thing. You gotta pay yourself first, right? For all the hard work that you do. Okay. And again, people, dying of heart attacks on the job and stuff like this is stuff that we're seeing because, they're being worked to death over here. Literally, some people are being worked to death. And there's nothing going back to these people. Nothing. Nothing is happening to help the little guy. Okay, so yes, Barney Sanders is going to really do anything. Senate Republicans may have succeeded in forcing rail workers to accept. Yeah. Okay. Well, now you have the Senate. Okay. Now what? Okay. Now what? There's no excuse anymore about. There hasn't been an excuse. Okay. That any one party or the other. Okay. I don't want to hear from anybody that it's got to be one party. Oh, if we have the Democrats and no. Oh, if we have the Republicans. No. I don't want to hear it anymore. It's the same thing. It's the definition of insanity, okay? Just like in oh man, what was the game? But anyway, that one villain that just basically goes like, do you know the definition of insanity? This is the definition of insanity, okay? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And we're doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that the government is going to fix it. No, they're not. They're part and parcel in it. Okay, so let's see some other ones over here. There we are. Okay, this is from another TikTok video over here. If I can I put this line? I guess not. Trying to see if I can put this full screen, but I guess not. TikTok on this is kind of weird.
Evidence that the fire at the Norfolk Southern rail line in East Palestine, Ohio, was a bigger deal than they said. At last Wednesday's press conference with the governor, a reporter asked what chemicals were of concern, and this is what the representative from the railroad said.
Obviously, the vinyl chloride.
Vinyl chloride.
Had to burn, and then a little bit of lube oil,
non-haz lube oil, a little bit.
Butyl acrylate is what a lot of what we're gathering.
Butyl acrylate. So today, the 12th, 4 days later, the EPA released the manifest sent to them yesterday from Norfolk Southern Railroad. This document can be downloaded directly from the EPA's website from the link in my bio. I brought up this non-haz lube oil before because just because it's non-hazardous doesn't mean that it's okay to spill it into the ground. So he said a little bit. Well, their train manifests here says they lost almost 2 full loads. These classes of train cars can carry up to 30,000 gallons. I have another video posted right before this that went into more things that were listed on this list but never previously mentioned. So we know that there have been tens of thousands of gallons of petroleum oil spilled. The question is, how much of it burned? We also know that they've been using back trucks and skimmers to collect more material, but how much have they caught? 1 gallon of petroleum oil can pollute up to 1 million gallons of water. It's going to be really important for us to find out exactly what those petroleum oils were, because most petroleum oils have additives added to them that modify certain characteristics of the product. There are tons of different chemicals that are used for this purpose, but some of them are those forever chemicals, PFAS, that you've heard about. They don't break down in nature, and they can be harmful to humans even in very small amounts.
Right. So I work with plastics. Okay. For example, styrofoam takes about anywhere from like 1 million to 5 million years to fully break down. So it's the reason why they call some people keep talking about microplastics, because it's a real phenomenon that is happening, where you're seeing the reproductive systems of people being affected. We're seeing food being affected. Everything, health is being affected everywhere, which is why I keep telling you guys, you guys got to get healthy. You guys got to get fit, because at the rate things are going, it's going to be harder and harder to keep yourself healthy with the way they are treating this. Okay, so a lot of these companies have on purpose blocked a lot of the regulations in order to protect their own profits and buy back profits that they're getting in. Okay, so this is from somebody posted this from the Jacobin. You guys know very well my feeling on communists and socialists. but anyway, again, we're taking articles from wherever we can, right? Because there's good, even a broken clock, if you want to call it broken, is right twice a day, right? So and again, twice a day, meaning out of the thousands of seconds in a day, the minutes in a day. But here we go. So through the company's 150-car train in Ohio reportedly burst. We know that a high-hazard flammable train. It was not regulated as that. Okay, it should have been, but it wasn't. Okay, documents show that when current transportation safety rules were first created, a federal agency sided with industry lobbyists and limited regulations governing the transport of hazardous compounds. The decision effectively exempted many trains hauling dangerous materials, including the one in Ohio, from the high hazard classification and its more stringent safety requirements. So, it's again, it doesn't matter because there's so many loopholes that they can take. So you can go ahead and impose more safety regulations. They're going to find some other loophole to go through, right? Because they have to keep precision scheduled railroading up and going. And the problem is when it comes to lobbying is that you can go ahead and get away with a whole lot of stuff because instead of spending, back billions of dollars in order to improve upon your own corporation, you can instead pay, couple million at most here or there, or maybe several $100,000 on a politician in certain areas to get the regulations that you want, to get the laws that you want passed. That's sort of the issue with this. Okay, no, it's not sort of the issue. It is the issue when it comes to lobbying. Okay, and I've been in the lobbying space. I know what it's like. I've seen it firsthand. This is exactly the type of thing that can go on. All you have to do is just get a couple of lunches with a politician. You have the right connections, and you can be able to make a lot of things happen when you get friendly with these people. And they're not that smart, okay? A lot of these politicians are not that smart. Now, again, my experience is working with local politicians in South Florida. They're not at all the brightest the brightest of the bunch, but certainly it's not that different for the rest of American politicians as a whole, with a lot of the same sort of stuff that they say, or a lot of the same behaviors that they follow through. It's the same thing that we keep seeing time and time again. I know I keep repeating this, but this is, again, we're going to this issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly what we're talking about. Okay? Again, that's all that has to happen. 2017, rail industry donors delivered more than $6 million to GOP campaigns, right? They can cause billions of dollars in damage, which would cause billions of dollars in fines and several years to life, or hundreds of years, if you actually convicted these people. But all they have to do is pay $6 million to a couple of Republicans and Democrats, because I know one side wants to focus on the it's the evil Republicans. And then it's the other one. It's the darn Democrats that keep doing it. It's the same people, right? So you want to keep getting locked up in this whole dichotomy, this false dichotomy of these two parties, when it's the whole system. The whole system is messed up. Okay. Again, we talked about ECP brakes, right? The electronically controlled pneumatic brakes. Okay. We've talked about a lot of these systems, like positive train control within the United States. Okay, so for example, Brightline has done everything it can to make sure that railroad is as safe as it can be. It's the first passenger railroad operating a positive train control. Okay, there's a whole lot of safety measures within the train to make sure that it's set up right, to make sure that it runs safely. Okay, at the safe and right speeds. Now, of course, people in the area keep crashing into the train because they don't follow the safety rules within the area. Okay, so that's a different subject. Okay, Brightline has done everything it can to make itself safe. We're talking about a completely different scenario where the railroads are doing whatever they can in order to save a penny here or there, make a buck and get away with it, and just keep doing it as much as they can. Okay, so would ECP brakes have reduced the severity of this accident? Yes. Simple answer, right? Simple answer. Former senior official at the Federal Railroad Administration. Okay, the railroads would test new features, but once they are told they have to do it, they don't want to spend the money. Okay, we saw this with the implementation of positive train control within the last several years, right? How many times have the railroads kept pushing the FRA to push the deadline for implementing positive train control? It's the same exact sort of thing. Okay. And then when you try to go ahead and say anything about this, let's see what happened to the journalist. Trying to find it here. There, I know I had that somewhere. Where did it go? There we are. Okay. There we are. Okay, so let me just go ahead and... Okay, so here's a journalist. They try to ask about, you know, was there reporting? And this is what happened. And again, it's funny because the original tweet is in Arabic, and here in this country we talk about journalistic freedoms and how places like Saudi Arabia, this is a Saudi journalist, by the way, how places like Saudi Arabia arrest journalists and kill journalists. Well, here it is. Here it is. We got this guy here, the one with the bad hairline over here. Probably late 20s, early 30s cop, and then the female cop with the pink grip on her. Is that a Glock, or no? It looks like maybe it's a Gen 3 because I think the hand grips on it. Look at the size of this guy. The female cop and the balding manlet cop taking away the journalist. This is American law enforcement, ladies and gentlemen. Back the blue. There you go. You think the cops are going to go ahead and arrest Norfolk Southern? You think this should be the shareholders of Norfolk Southern right now? This should be the CEOs and well, anybody, the responsible parties within Norfolk Southern. But this is a journalist who just, you know, was asking questions. Now again, I'm trying to see if I can get more of the context of what's happening, because you can see this, and then I have the video. Where is it? Here we are. News Nation reporter released from jail after arrest from Ohio. Arrest. Here we are. All right. So here's sort of the context of it. A reporter was arrested after a live television shot during a news conference by Ohio Governor Mark DeWine about a rail derailment. Video shows correspondent Evan Lambert of News Nation being handcuffed face down on the ground Wednesday by 2 law enforcement officers, then being escorted to a police SUV. The news conference was at East Palestine, a village in Columbiana County near the Ohio-Pennsylvania state line. It was not immediately clear what led to Lambert's arrest, but a Columbiana County Sheriff's Office spokesperson told USA Today on Thursday that Lambert was charged with disorderly conduct and criminal trespassing, both of which are misdemeanor charges. So they're going to make up whatever charges, right? Because, you know, again, if you're a cop and you're trying to go ahead and arrest somebody, you can make up you can go through whatever state code you want and try to make up some sort of BS. Okay, as long as you have whatever causes in order to go ahead, handcuff a guy, put him away, you can do it, right? So that's exactly what's going on, right? But he was released to jail on a $750 bond. Again, with the bond that low, and at that time, they just wanted to make a statement, okay, that they could do whatever they felt like it. Right now, of course, and Governor DeWine is stating that he didn't do it. He wasn't the one that made a decision. It doesn't matter, right? Because the actions just happened right there. Okay, so it's just showing that if you try to go ahead and do anything asking about this is exactly what's going to happen. Now, let's follow the money over here, right? Let's go through. Where's the other article? Okay, I have Yahoo News. Let's go to Yahoo Finance. Well, to Governor DeWine's credit, he did say one little thing, and we'll go ahead and let him speak.
Does impact Congress. I learned today from the PUCO, Ohio's PUCO, that this train was not considered high hazardous material train. Let me repeat this. This train apparently was not considered a high hazardous material train. Therefore, the railroad was not required to notify anyone here in Ohio about what was in the rail cars coming through our state. I would think that the members of Congress, and I would ask them to take a look at this. Even though some rail cars did have hazardous material on board, And while most of them did not, that's why it was not categorized as a high hazardous material train.
Okay, so there you go, right? So let's look at some of these companies, right? So you guys can do this yourselves. Let's go to Yahoo Finance because that's the easiest route to do it, right? Let's go ahead and look up Norfolk Southern, so you can see who are these people getting all these stock buybacks, right? So let's go to Norfolk Southern Corporation. Okay, let me put this over here if you guys can see it. This is what happens when you're working with a whole bunch of stuff over here. Whoa! Hold on. There we go. Oh, man. I gotta find a better streaming setup than this because it's just making a whole mess everywhere. And again, I'm out of practice because I haven't done this in, what, 2 weeks? I'm sorry, 2 months. There we go. Where's Discord? There we are. There's Discord. Okay. So let's go through this, right? Let's go through this. Okay, now let me get this other tab open. There we go. All right. Again, I apologies for what's the little things here and there, but let's walk through this. Okay. So again, just go on Yahoo Finance or any similar website, and you can look up the holders over here, right? So you go to this tab, go to holders, right? Here, Norfolk Southern. Actually, let's just look real quickly so you can see. Did it really hurt Norfolk Southern? Well, they're in the green today. Let's look within the last month, right? Let's see. Actually, let's zoom out the graph, right? 5 years. Let's look in 5 years, right? Because this is probably the longest interval that a lot of these snakes run at. Okay, they're looking at, oh, can I get my money back in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, etc. They're not looking any further than that, and that's it. They're just looking at the money, nothing else. Okay, so on April 18th, they were at a stock price of $143. They're now at $100 more than that. So they've made they've made about a 40% increase in stock, right? And about 6 months, from 257 to 238, not too big of a drop, right? But within the last 5 days or so, it hasn't been that much. Within the last month, about a similar drop, but within a day, look at that. Up 3 points, 1%. Again, if you zoom out the graph, that's what we're looking at. Okay, so you look at it 5 years, that's what we're seeing. Okay, this is all that they're looking at. They're looking to see that goes up. Now, let's look at the holders over here. Okay, so every public corporation, they have to disclose who owns their shares in each company, right? So again, if you thought that the buybacks for the airlines were bad, this is even worse. Okay, because we're seeing companies go ahead and buy. If I'm correct, if I have the numbers here correctly, here, there's another article from Bloomberg. I'm trying to find, because it was several $100 billion, or it was something about to the effect of $140 billion. I don't remember the exact number within the last 10 years. Okay, it's billions of dollars in stock buybacks. Willis, going ahead and getting rid of tens of thousands of workers, right? So look at that. Companies got an action saying service problems originated from companies shedding 45,000 workers in the past 6 years. Okay, so that's where a lot of those problems are going. So it's basically it's corporate parasitism. Okay, so now let's look at the top institutional holders. I'm pretty sure some of you may be familiar with these names already, right? So we see Vanguard Group Incorporated earns 8%. BlackRock earns 6%, close to 7%, right? JP Morgan and Chase 5%. State Street Corporation 4.46%. You're gonna see some of these names repeated over and over and over again, right? You're gonna see State Street. Mostly it's gonna be BlackRock is number one, Vanguard, then State Street. Okay. Well, let's do it for another company. Let's look at CSX. Same thing. We're gonna go to holders. CSX is a public corporation. Again, in a day they've seen their stock go up. In the last month they've seen it go down. 6 months. It's the same sort of things from all companies. But you see in the last 5 years, it's been about a 30% increase. Let's see. Look at the holders. Same thing. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Okay, Vanguard having 8.75%, BlackRock having 6.61%. Let's look at Union Pacific again, another major company. Okay, again in the last 5 years, we're talking about another 40% increase. Let's go look at their holders again. Here we go, same thing. Vanguard 8.87%, BlackRock 6.88%, State Street 4.44%. Okay. So we're seeing this time and time again happen. How about Canadian National? Okay, there you go. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Trust, 8.15%. Here you go, Vanguard Group again. Okay, well BlackRock isn't here, but again, if you look at what BlackRock is owned by, so BlackRock we can actually look up. Here we are, because they are a public corporation, BlackRock Incorporated. Here we are. You go look at their holders. They're all owned by the same people. Vanguard, 9%. BlackRock, 6.96%. State Street, 4.21%. All right, now I can't look up Vanguard because Vanguard itself is again, there's ways that you can go ahead and look at this, but Vanguard is a private corporation, so they don't have to show out their holders, but we can look for, let's say State Street, I think is public. Yeah, here we are, State Street Corporation, STT. Go ahead to holders. And here we go, Vanguard, BlackRock, same thing, 9%, 7.5%. Okay, and let me show you this, guys. This really quick clip if I can find it, because a lot of people say, well, you know, this is what you get with the free system, right? What you get with a democratic system. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with an anime called Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but it touched upon the pros and cons of democracy and monarchy really well. But there's this one speech in here that kind of talks about the futility of democracy, right? And let me just put it over here. It's in Japanese, but here's the subtitles for it, so you guys can just see it really quickly. All right, let me see if I can get it here in the middle. If it'll work, maybe the default view. There we are. Ah, man, OBS, it's making it really hard to figure this out. And there we go. Okay. All right, so for those of you who are just listening, okay, I'm just going to go through it real quick. There's only one real concern of government. And what's that? It's control of the many by the few. Democracy is the rule of the many by their free will, isn't it? If the total is 100, if you collect 51 among them, you can make it rule by the majority. But then that majority is divided into many factions. Namely, if we add up 26 from among those 51, they can rule the whole we spoke of before. Okay, let me just go through it, keep going. How feudal is the democratic principle called majority rule? I know Your Excellency will understand. Since the true aspect of government is control of the many by the few, the existence of people like me is necessary for stability. So the democratic, let's just I'm not spoiling it here, but a democratic faction got taken over by the monarchical faction, and this guy's basically explaining, oh well, you need people like us, right? Because if you take 51%, right, 51% is majority. Well, what's the majority of that majority? It's 26%, right? You go and have 26%. Now we're talking about 13%, right? 13 being the 50%. Not in that way. I'm talking about we're talking about democracy over here, right? And we're just talking about numbers, okay? You take 13% in half, you get what? 6.5%. You take that 6.5% in half. Again, these are the numbers that we're talking about over here, okay? This is the majority rule. You just need 9% or 7%, okay, or 5%. Look at Norfolk Southern again. Let's just go right over here. Okay, so just ask yourself, who is making these calls? Okay, and if these people all own each other, right? Because we looked at BlackRock, it's mostly owned by Vanguard. Okay, and Vanguard is probably mostly owned by BlackRock, even though they probably won't say it, or State Street, or one of these other major companies. It's the same thing happening time and time again. This is how it's being corporate run. This is how corporations are run in America, right? It's the same slime balls, the same people going ahead and making decisions. And if you don't think it's just the railroad companies, well, let's just pick up, let's say Disney, right? Right? Largest media company in the world, owns ESPN, ABC, a whole bunch of other companies, Fox, I believe Fox News as well. There you are, Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. There you go. It's the same three companies, Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Okay. Let's see, Boeing. Let's look at Boeing. There you are. At some point, I'm afraid that there's going to be a 308 caliber going through my window over here, aimed directly at my head for the stuff that I'm saying. This is just public information, guys. Here you go. Boeing Company, main institutional holders, 7%. Vanguard, Newport Trust, BlackRock, State Street. Somebody also mentioned McDonald's, and we made a joke on the Discord that you can track the health of America's infrastructure. It can be indexed by ice cream machines if they're working or not. So here you are, McDonald's, Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. You can keep doing this for every single company you want. Okay, every single company, basically. Let me just look at here real quickly in the comments. Yeah. I love how Disney Junior Channel, it's the same thing. It's all that. MT, so ultimately owners can hide in a private company. Yeah, there's a whole lot of different ways that you can hide behind holding companies, LLCs, private corporations, etc. So yeah, here you go. Walmart. Go ahead. Let's look at that. Holders. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Let's see Coca-Cola. Here you are. Go to holders. Berkshire Hathaway is another one. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. There you go. We can make a song. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. 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 Owning all these companies. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. It's time and time again the same crap. But yeah, this is what's going on, and we'll just leave it over here. And again, I've been following the money since we started with this this corporation, with this club, right? It's nowhere near a company, right? But since we started with this club, we looked at the NIMBYs, right? We saw the airlines being involved into this, right? Former American Airlines CEO and president being involved in attacking a privatized high-speed rail network to go ahead and try to get itself running within Florida. They try to go ahead and stop it. The guy himself put in $1 million, right? We see the same thing in Texas, where somebody who used to work for the oil industry, basically silver spoon fed, was running an oil company by the time he's 21, right? Give me a break. Yeah, he started that in his basement to go ahead and try and successfully more or less stop Texas Central Railroad, right? So we see this time and time again. If they want something done, they'll get it done. More or less all the time. Okay, so this is what happened. Okay, well, let's here another one just because we mentioned it. Southwest Airlines, right? Here we are. Go to holders. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Okay, Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock. There you go. Vanguard, Prime Cap, State Street, BlackRock. There you go. 11% of Southwest is owned by Vanguard. Okay, and again, you can't find Vanguard because itself is you can find the index fund, which is, again, that's not the company itself. It's just an indexing fund on what their own holdings are, so you can see what they hold. But that's it. And again, they hold top 10 holdings: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Alphabet, which is Google, Berkshire Hathaway, Tesla, Nvidia. So again, they own all the same people, but it's a private corporation, so you can't actually go and find it out. Put Vanguard Incorporated. Why is it not a? Look, my old employers, Cummins and Market. Oh man, but yeah, this is what's going on, folks. Okay, but it's all the same people, right? And again, you can look at what's going on. This is just a parasitical eating of America. That's what's going on. It's just a parasitical hold of America, just taking out what they can, and bring in whatever money. They're not looking at the long-term future of how this is going to affect the infrastructure and whatnot, right? Because if they actually care, they'd be fixing the infrastructure. They're taking whatever money they can and leaving. Okay, we saw this in 2008 with the bank. They'll just find whatever failure, the next failure they can go ahead and feed upon, trash it out, throw it out like if it was some, you know, old prostitute or something like that. That's what they're using this country as. Okay, it's kind of a disgusting situation to look at, but this is exactly what's going on. Okay, this is not the last time we're seeing this. We're going to see this again, probably within the next year. All right, now that I'm done, let's go and see who's in the audience still. David Mitchell is on here, and again, for those of you guys who want to join in, you're more than welcome to go ahead and opine. Come on in and share your piece. Let's bring in David Mitchell to speak on board. If I can. Hey there, long time no see. How's it going?
Oh, it's good. I've been taking reins on talk about stuff that you've been talking about on my YouTube channel over your 2-month hiatus. You know?
Yeah, it's been a bit, but hope everything's going well. Anything you wanted to share here?
Ooh. I did. We're probably going to have a definite railroad strike this year. There's no way it's stopping it now, you know?
Yeah, it needs to happen. At least while, again, like I said, while the iron is hot, it needs to be struck.
I have an odd feeling by this summer, we're going to have a railroad strike. By this summer.
Oh, I hope so. Anything here you want to share in terms of any sort of railroad strike or any rumblings?
Well, I send you a couple of stuff on Discord, like privately, like I sent you some stuff that I was talking about, like it's involved a partner rail system for South Carolina.
Okay.
And what happened is that I talked about it on my live stream, and oh my god, this group started talking crap, and you know, they're the type of people who would defend the airlines and the car talking crap of why partner rail won't work in South Carolina. Like, I sent you the screenshot of what these people are talking about, and it's hilarious when you read their stupid answer. And I called them out saying, "You're drinking that Kool-Aid, am I right?"
I see what you're saying here, but I mean, we know about that in terms of passenger rail and everything else. But I mean, what do you think of this situation as in a whole? I mean, I know you yourself has said it's going to get worse before it gets better.
True. Like, we have not hit the tipping point yet, but we're close. We might be hitting the tipping point before the end of the year or next year. Like, we're about to hit it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People keep saying, "Oh, you know, it's getting bad. It's getting bad." It was like, yeah, well, it's been bad. And in fact, if you really look at the numbers, I mean, we never really left the recession of 2008. The real unemployment numbers have been steadily around 25%. If you really look at it, and then we're really now this is a depression. Nobody wants to say it. It's a depression. Okay, that's where we're in. But it's.
We're in a depression.
Yeah,
you know?
But nothing is really going to happen, and then, you know, again, you can go ahead and say something about it, but you're going to get taken away by Officer Manlet and taser over here on the right hand side. You know, maybe she'll forget that pink Smith & Wesson NMP there is not a taser, and she'll accidentally shoot you with it or something like that.
Oh, by the way, them 2 people got fired.
What?
The people who were caught arresting that person in that video, they got fired.
Oh, these 2?
Yeah, the 2 that arrested that journalist, they got fired for it, and the charges was dropped because a lot of people have peed off.
All right, let me see if I can look that up. Hold on.
The only reason why I know this is because I have a friend who lives in that town, you know?
Oh, what is he saying? Well, that's interesting. What is he saying about this situation then?
Well, he said that them 2 were rookies and that they were hot-headed. You know, the type of cop that you don't want to hire.
The type of cop you don't want to hire, but you hire anyway. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that. That they hire all the time.
Well, them two got fired from the job from that, and the police are in cleanup control right now.
Okay, do you have an article for this? Because I'm trying to look this up.
Well, there's no article. The only reason I know it is because my friend lives in that town.
All right, so we're going on kind of on a he said she said sort of thing. It's not something that I can confirm through something. Yeah, I definitely get it. But if again, so we're putting it out there, folks. I think we're the first ones saying it. If this is indeed true, the 2 police officers that you see on the screen who arrested this journalist have been fired from their department. Again, we can't confirm it, but there's an ongoing rumor that this is true. I'm trying to confirm it, but yeah.
And saying it, they're trying to keep it on the down low because they're trying to keep it down. But you know, a lot of people are peed off about it.
All right.
Hey, speaking of that, we got a W for Amtrak.
What happened with Amtrak?
They are already doing training for Mobile to Louisiana.
All right. Well, there you go. That's something. Let's keep everything in terms of Bright Line and Amtrak for another thing, because I want to.
There already video popping up of the test trains running from Mobile to Louisiana, and that a victory right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is something. So at least, again, the thing is that we sort of see this happen with American infrastructure, is that we see one step forward and then 5 steps back. I mean, at least in this perspective, if we're at least going a step forward every single time and the rest of it is falling down, at least we'll be left with something when it all has no more steps to fall back. Okay? And I've talked about this before. And I know I make fun of like for example, let's say India or something like that. India has a better chance of fixing its infrastructure because it's starting from zero, more or less, right? The United States has started from such a high ground, and we're just seeing it go down like this. So before it start seeing sort of an up, you're gonna just start seeing just more of a downward decline. Okay.
Exactly. And speaking of that, I'm going to bring up now, there's another freight railroad in the U.S. that is now starting to dabble itself in passenger rail, and get what railroad that is?
Which one?
It's called the Finger Lake Railroad. They are dabbling in adding a passenger train this summer up in Maine.
All right. Well, that's something. We'll save that for another time. Anything? Any last words on this situation here, David? In terms of the Norfolk Southern, I know you've mentioned CSX was probably going to be the first to sort of blow out, but it seems it could be Norfolk Southern here if there's enough black backlash from this. Because I'm gonna be honest. I don't really see much of a backlash, especially the way the media is not talking about this. They seem to want to be talking more about balloons and other BS rather than what's going on here in our own country. Or let's put it this way: if this was Kiev instead of East Palestine or East Palestine, there'd be money going there, but it's not.
The thing is that I did said in the one live stream that we might see Norfolk Southern at a fallen flag in the next couple of years before this decade is out. I did said that, you know? I said it was either going to be CXX, Norfolk Southern, or BNSF.
Well,
I guess it's probably going to be that, but, you know, surprisingly we have ours to come in.
All right. Well, anyway, I appreciate you coming on the show and everything that you do. I really do.
Well, I will say this, we're going to see a lot of fallen flags in this decade.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be happening. Again, David, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. You have a night night.
You too. All right. Anybody else from the audience? Again, for those of you in the YouTube channel commenting, if you want to opine, do so now. I'm just going to check in the. Let's see what the comments are saying over here, and I can go through all the way back on the comments. Let's see. Bobby Johnson, I love small towns. I hope East Palestine will be all right. Yeah, well, we're hoping so too. And again, at least what you can do for now is pray for that. I know people say, oh, people don't think that prayers work. Prayers work because if you're doing prayer right, you'll be called to action to do something, right? So if you're praying right, you're going to either at least help yourself or start getting yourself more prepared in what's going on, right? Just praying and putting on, because you don't see anybody putting on an Ohio flag sticker on their profiles or anything like that. Everybody is just, we're still with the blue and yellow flags of a country that cannot be named on YouTube because of, silly regulations, but that's what it is. Let's see what else over here. Check out the movie White Noise. Oh, yes. Okay, so last thing that I forgot to mention. There is a movie. You want to talk about predictive programming in a sense. It's called White Noise. Thank you for who mentioned it here. Engineer Railman. Yeah, so this is a movie that was filmed in Ohio. Not exactly in East Palestine, but it stars Adam Driver in a movie talking about more or less the same sort of thing. That you have a crash. An accident with a railroad. You have an airborne toxic event, forces a mass evacuation, which leads to a massive traffic jam on the highway. Again, this is the same sort of thing that's going in. And again, the funny thing is that this was done. This was filmed last year, released last year, and some of the casting, some of the extras, were from East Palestine. So it's just kind of freaky that this sort of thing happens. It's just freaky. Now, again, is it some sort of predictive programming sort of thing, or something that they thought was going to happen? Probably not, because look, again, maybe it is just a coincidence. Maybe it's not. If you don't believe in coincidence, that's what it is. But I'm just going to leave it here for you guys, okay? Because again, it's pretty freaky that there was a movie done on this. And then you have more or less the same sort of thing happening, even though this takes place in the 80s. Because again, we're never leaving 80s nostalgia ever at this rate. 80s and 90s nostalgia is here to stay. All right, let me put the OBS back, because anytime I try to move the OBS window, it does silly things. What a coincidence! Yes, it is, John Sullivan. John Sullivan, this is about negligence. The problem is not trains. Well, negligence caused by the management system that they're putting in. Grambo, these recent chemical spills are becoming too obvious. It's becoming strategic, let alone planned. Yeah, again, when you see movies like that, it's a little bit too much. Some people say that they're basically nuking small town America on purpose with this. Some are calling it economic warfare. And again, with the damage that it's causing to the groundwater and what that's going to do to the rest of the area here in the Ohio River Valley, we're going to see. Hopefully, they don't grow a third eye because of this. Heartless Fiend, that was a funny. I can't say the comment, but it is funny. And some idiot will say ban trains. Yeah, again, it's not the trains. It's the same logic as gun. It's funny enough with all this stuff happening. You think the guys like in Black Rock or anything like that. It's like we're not dealing with warrior kings over here. It's like you really wonder why they're trying so hard to get rid of the guns, because it seems like talking about things doesn't work. You get arrested by the police if you try to say anything. You do anything else, they don't want to talk about it. The media corporations are owned by the same people. So I wonder why. Rest in peace, animals. Yes. Poor people too. Let's be honest. The people have to come first before the animals. But the animals are, your canary in the coal mine. How can a rail car cause derailment? Again, we saw the axle blow out. It basically shaved itself down to nothing. There was no wheels to go on, so as forces would happen and physics would happen, it pushed the train right off. Mohammed Qureshi, the train cars are not maintained like they used to. Yeah. Okay, we're having a lot of people now here on here. Okay, Chicago Rail fan, we'll bring him on over here, invite to speak. Chicago Rail fan, welcome aboard.
be here.
All right.
Those events today. Well, not today. Well, past few days.
Yeah, it's been crazy, man.
I know. Like when I heard this story, I'm like, oh shit, another one.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. Well, actually, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Like, there's been a few disasters in Graniteville. I'm not sure if it was North or South Carolina. There was a leak of chlorine gas, and so the town had to endure a poisonous chlorine gas. But the thing is, that gas was pretty dense, so it stayed on the ground.
Right.
This is vinyl chloride. This kind of goes up in the air, which can affect a multitude of, people, which is even worse.
Oh yeah, it's bad, and like we heard from the guy over here, Nick Drama on TikTok, he knows a heck of a lot more chemistry than most other people, right? So he's on point when it comes to the effects that vinyl chloride can have on the environment. And not just that, because when they burned it off, it goes into like some of the chemicals can go into hydrochloric acids, and if you play with hydrochloric acid in chemistry class, you know how bad that substance is.
Oh, I know how bad hydrochloric.
Yeah.
It's like one of the strongest acids out there.
Yeah.
I don't think the strongest, but
one of the
definitely something you don't mess with.
Oh yeah. And then of course here was the one about the one in Paulsboro, New Jersey, which released 23,000 gallons of toxic vinyl chloride gas. That was another one that I spoke about that I have here on screen. But yeah, it's like again, this is happening more and more time and time again. It's just that, at least now with this incident being shown on here and the absolute terrible negligence that happened to it, because this is something that was absolutely avoidable. They know that the trains are falling apart. They have the ability to go ahead and have predictive maintenance measures on there, to have on boards. Let's say, for example, just like what you have in your car, just onboard maintenance systems. So this was absolutely avoidable.
It really is just a result of just convenience. And think about it, this is vinyl chloride. They use it to make plastics, and most notably PVC, which is in pipes.
Right.
Obviously, these people would want to use this. They're gonna want to get as much of this out to manufacture as soon as possible. So when you don't take everything into consideration, something's gonna happen. And look where we are now.
Yeah, this is at where we are. Anything you want to add to this, or anything that you've heard?
No, not really. I mean, this also. I've known of another disaster where chemicals have been spilled. I've heard of the Wailega incident in Wisconsin. It happened the 80s, I think. So I don't think it was toxic chemicals, but I'm sure flammable chemicals as well.
Yeah, it was something like that. I think it was petroleum or something like that. It was,
but that was different. The cause of the accident was a fractured rail. The rail literally was cracked. There was part of it missing.
Right. Yeah, and they're probably gonna see. Yeah, that's definitely something we'll probably see more of.
Yeah, it's they don't even maintain the tracks well. I even see here in Chicago, there's these long trains, and there's something to just stop because of traffic ahead, and then just cause a big jam on the railroad crossings. I've dealt with that myself, and it's just horrible.
Yeah, but again, this is something we're just going to see more of.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, not really. This kind of singing us all in.
No worries. But I appreciate you.
Yeah.
No worries. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
No worries. Thank you. All right. So, last person, I think, ready to. Oh, there's two more people here to speak. So, Focus 9912. We're gonna invite him on. All right, Focus. Welcome aboard.
Hello, good morning. Oh,
good morning. Where you are in your part of the world? How you doing?
As I say, from Malaysia, it's only basically it's the opposite right now. 10:47 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been such this. Is the joke about the the precision scheduled railroading has been mentioned?
Yes, that's what we're talking about. That how it's precision scheduled railroading is basically the main cause of everything that stemmed to create this sort of accident.
Is, to be honest, the fact that even the whole, I can I speak later because I think my connection has the problem.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll bring on somebody else.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so next we have the man from Tokyo. All right. You are on board. Okay, I think you have your mic on mute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep, loud and clear. How you doing?
How about you?
All right, hanging in there.
It is 7:49 p.m. over here in Arizona.
Oh wow! So a man from Tokyo over in Arizona.
Currently, I'm just finishing up my homework and stuff, so still a freshman in high school.
No worries, man. Anything here you want to add in terms of what's going on over in Ohio?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Anything you want to add or respond to what's going on in Ohio?
I mean, seriously, it's just terrible, Well, sure, we did have these kind of accidents for like many times for about 2 or 3 decades or something, but still, this, like I said, this is an accident that we could just prevent. So, yeah, it's just insane.
Yeah, and again, this just goes to say one of the worst parts about this is just the dishonesty from all fronts of this. From not just, and again, there are journalists that do their job, but that's a very few and in between. And the journalists that do get their job, it's either they get arrested or they get the main prize from the CIA, usually a bullet in the head if they're doing their job too well. But again, from all sides of it, from both the Norfolk Southern, from the governorship of Ohio, from the federal government, from the National Transportation Safety Board, it's been very little information, or either that or just flat out lying.
Right. Yeah, I mean, seriously, this is now the result of, us having antiquated infrastructure and, the train sets and also everything else that goes through that infrastructure. So,
Yep.
There we have it.
Yep, this is just the results of it. And again, precision scheduled railroading would be the main cause of this in this instance, but and again, there's a whole lot of symptoms to that, but you look at the really main factor to what caused precision scheduled railroading, it's this corporatization, this corporate oligarchy that has taken over the United States. As we saw, it's either BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street that have control over all these corporations.
Yeah, and also, this is kind of unrelated to the Ohio one, but I kind of want to ask you this question for about the last 3 or 4 months, I should say.
Sure.
What do you think is the current state of Texas Central? I mean, this is a project that I've kind of been following since I found about, your channel and everything, and so. What do you think is the kind of situation of it? I mean, like a few weeks ago, the NIMBYs kind of, finally, probably resued the possession to TCR. So, do you think that is it dead? Is it like that, or? I
would say it's mostly. I would say it's mostly dead, and that's from what we know. That it was the vast majority of its the holdings and management was basically given to. A corporation that's known for just sun lighting or sun downing out companies and just giving out the assets to whatever else. Apart from that, they were able to get one part done in trying to get the regulation that they did have a right to use eminent domain in Texas between Dallas and Houston. But again, if it took that long to get that part of it. There'll be something else that the NIMBYs and the oil companies that are behind most of the funding for those NIMBY groups, that they'll find something to go ahead and stop the next iteration of it. There's also a possibility that let's say the holdings or the plans for Texas Central could, let's say, sprout out again either through another company or another group, or it could be very much Brightline. Let's say if they get what's going on over in Nevada to California, if they get that going and that becomes successful, they can move on to the next step, which could be Dallas to Houston, or they could partner with another company.
Right. Do you think that something like a new CEO or management, or at least someone that used to be in the management team, could return to TCR or something?
Yep, most definitely it could. But for right now, there's really not going to be much movement in that. Especially now with what's going on with the railroads, most railroads are going to be quiet with this. Just because that's the way the news cycle works. When there's something negative about the industry, they tend to be more quiet, even if they're in passenger rail.
So you're saying that although it might be kind of out of momentum right now, new momentum could be kind of,
Yeah, most definitely. But right now, it's not going anywhere until they get some sort of kick moving forward, because it's gone kicked down proverbially, right? So you have to wait and see until something else. But yeah, for right now, unfortunately, Texas Central Railway is not going to go anywhere.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Anything else you wanted to ask?
No. Also, do you really think that Brightline West could hopefully start construction this year? I mean, sure, the company is saying it, but not really optimistic in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and they have been a little late in several things. I mean, look, at least they got the Aventura and Boca Raton stations opened, and probably by somewhere this year they're going to open up the Orlando route. It's really just more of that they're hampered back by the regulations and testing. They could go ahead and start doing things at any time, but they're just kind of held back with a leash because of the regulations that we have. So that's the funny thing. It takes a long time to get the regulations through or get any of the anything done and passed through. Let's say the EPA, for example, the environmental impact studies and any of that sort of thing. It takes a long time to get that done. But to go ahead, and this is why these large corporations with access to billions of dollars do the sort of thing that they do, because it's sort of the system that is set up in order to make sure that the little guy or smaller companies can't do the same thing. So it takes out competition.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and also another thing about Northeast Maglev. When do you think that they could finally, start moving again?
I'm a little less optimistic about that, but we'll check about Northeast Maglev later on, because I need to go ahead and start getting back in contact with a lot of people and see what's going on with them. But anyway, yeah, definitely.
We heard about it was like August of 2021.
Yeah, it's been a bit, so we gotta catch up on a whole lot of things here. But I appreciate you coming on, really do.
Thank you.
No problem.
It's also a pleasure for me to talk with you and everything, since I found out about you and your channel like 4 years ago, back when I was in 4th grade. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. All right, you have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
No worries. All right, and the last caller will be Pensy Fan. Let's go ahead, and that will be the last call of the night. All right, so Pensy Fan, you're on.
Hello everyone, just to make sure is my audio working?
Yep, you are loud and clear.
Alright, good to hear. Once again, thank you again for hosting this stream. I know it's been a little bit of a while, but thank you for keeping us updated about the rail in East Palestine. I find it especially concerning that all the major news companies aren't really covering this, and the only ones who are just the local ones, and not them. And you also have your railroad-based news companies like Trains Magazine, Railfin Railroad, but other than those smaller companies, they're the only ones who really provide updates about something that's a really massive event in American railroading history.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get much into this because I have to kind of watch what I say, since this is a public video after all. I don't want the wrong things to be misinterpreted.
Yeah, I know, and that's kind of the thing with being on YouTube, that it sort of hampers us from saying us, the bold truth in a much more succinct manner. But go ahead.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you for covering stuff with East Palestine. I'm trying to think of other things I want to mention as well. It's just been a long day for me, but one thing I also wanted to mention specifically about Brightline West and I guess news media in general. A lot of the railway news agencies haven't covered this yet, but the official Brightline website just posted an official rendering of the Siemens high-speed train sets for Brightline West. And if you look in the general chat, I just posted a picture now.
All right, well, that's interesting. I did say I wasn't going to focus too much on everything else, but that is interesting enough for me to sort of segue into that really quickly. And that's in the general chat. Let me just check here. I'm going through and terminus. All right, there we are. Yep, okay, so you guys are seeing it here first, and anybody else, here's what Brightline West is going to look like. Let me see if I can zoom that out over here. There you go. There's there we are. Let me just move this over here. Ah, man, OBS. More of just my handling of OBS. There we go. There are. There's the I guess it's the Siemens Valero. That's what the train sets are going to look like between LA and Vegas, or more specifically Victorville. So yeah, all right. Thank you for sharing that, man.
You're welcome. It's just another example of Brightline W, as I like to call it.
Yeah, it's the only bright spot here, pun intended.
Yeah. Although I also must congratulate Amtrak for running passenger service, or at least starting trial runs on the Gulf Coast route. That is a huge win for passenger rail as well. And even though both Brightline and Amtrak have their benefits and flaws in terms of their funding method and operating method, the thing with Brightline, and even though I definitely feel that the derailment in Ohio is definitely a result of PSR and a bunch of things that are associated with it, the thing with Brightline, and the reason why I support private railroads like Brightline in particular, is that they're not following a PSR system.
Exactly.
Another thing that kind of controls that too is that I don't think they're listed on the stock market, but it's a bit of a risk if you don't do that, because on the one hand, if you're publicly traded, you get much more funding from all these investment companies, but I think they usually have a larger say in where the company goes.
Oh yeah, you're definitely selling your soul in a sense, right? But if because so Brightline is owned by Fortress Investment Groups, and Fortress Investment Groups is also private. So if I look up, let's say, like right here on Yahoo, and I look up Fortress Fortress Investment Group, it's listed as private, so you can't really see any of the information on that. Now, is it possible, and it most likely is, it's that's probably true, that Fortress probably has investments or is invested by BlackRock State Vanguard BlackRock State Street, but at least it seems that when you're a private company, you have a lot more control over what you do, and without a lot of input from the shareholders. And again, investment company does have shareholders, but since they're a private hedge fund, it's different than what the not limitations, but what you can do with that. And then Florida East Coast is also, so if I look up Florida East Coast Railroad, they're also another private corporation. Even though Brightline is a sister company, but they're all owned by Fortress, or heavily owned by Fortress. So yeah, so that's the information behind that. So there's always somebody more up top, right? So that's the story behind that.
All right, then thank you again for the stream, and thank you for introducing that little tool. I think Google has something similar with their own finance website, but I don't think they show all the holders. I think only Yahoo does that. But
yeah, Yahoo, and I know when I used to be more into the stock market and to crypto trading, I used Yahoo a lot to just see where the market was going, because a lot of it's just emotion based. But that's definitely probably one of the better tools to use, and it's just an easier layout to just find out where the money is going, who owns what, etc. That's a really good tool to use.
All right, then thank you again for holding the stream.
No problem. I appreciate it. All right. So that's it for the calls for today. So yeah, this is what we're going through. So hopefully in the next couple days, I'm going to start getting more active over here. We're going to start looking a little bit more into what's going on over here. But apart from that, yeah, some other, like David said, that the other probably breaking thing that we have to share here, and you've heard it here first, is that those two officers that arrested that journalist seem to have been booted off the force. Again, it's a rumor. It's not. We can't confirm whether or not it's 100% true, but that may be something. But apart from that, yeah, that's the latest of what's going on over in East Palestine, Ohio. Again, prayers for the people that are going on over there, and keep vigilant with what's going on, and keep yourself prepared, because this is going to be happening more and more. We've had several derailments over here around in Indiana, and this is the thing. Every time I cross, for the last several years that I cross a railroad track, you never know. Maybe those gates will have a malfunction and you won't hear the signals going across. You won't hear the bells. So you just have to look, listen, see what's going on, feel the vibration, see if there's no trains going by, because you never know what's going to happen. And just keep yourself in the loop of things. But again, thank you all for joining on this wild ride. It is Demetrius Villa from the Man, I'm so far behind. From the American Rail Club. Thank you for coming on board. We will see you all next time. Good night and Godspeed. Take care.